Good evening. I suddenly realized I don't know what to do with my hands. It hasn't been very often that I've been courageous in my life. In fact, I'm embarrassed to say probably my most courageous moment occurred way back when I was 9 years old and I fought in the Great Hobo War. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and at that time, at the end of our street, there was still a cornfield and a woods. And along the edge of the woods was a railroad track. And right in the middle of the woods was this great big clearing shaded by massive oak trees. And throughout this clearing were all these empty oil drums. Well, neighborhood legend had it that that's where the hobos would gather at night. These hobos were cruel, menacing figures that supposedly got off the freight trains at night and would gather around these oil drums, light fires in them, and roast their meat and keep warm. And God forbid they caught you trespassing on their territory. There were stories, well documented, how they captured little kids, beat them up, and roasted the soles of their feet on their oil drum fires. Micah Gillinaughty, he had a limp, and he claimed it was from having his foot roasted by the hobos. Well, one summer afternoon, there's like 20 of us neighborhood kids, ranging in age from kindergarten to 5th grade, and we were in the woods making plans to have a big war. Our weapons were crab apples, tomatoes we had borrowed from all the neighborhood gardens. I had a big load of green ones, rocks, corn cobs from the farmer's field. And we were devising our battle plans when suddenly they appeared out of nowhere. And we knew right away who they were, the hobos. They were a frightening, unsavory bunch, 3 of them, all smoking cigarettes with greasy black hair. There's one huge one with one ear. They all had tattoos, and they all exuded evil. Now, in reality, they're probably just a trio of high school delinquents. But the way they looked and the way they so threateningly emerged from the woods, our imaginations assured us they were indeed the long-dreaded and feared hobos. It's the hobos, we all cried. I think it was Jimmy Steinmetz, who was the oldest of all us, who issued the command, fire at will. And we threw at him everything we had, tomatoes and crab apples and corn and golf balls and rocks. Blankety blank, you little blankers, yelled the hobos as they saw cover behind the trees. Charge, Jimmy yelled, and we all charged. We'll kill you, screamed the biggest one, and they came bounding toward us. Jimmy quickly changed tactics. Retreat! And we began to run like maniacs with the hobos in hot pursuit. It was a totally disorganized, desperate, exhilarating retreat. My heart was pumping with fear and excitement, hoping we could make it back to civilization before we were overtaken. Ideally to Donnie Pepper's backyard, where we could make one last desperate stand next to the Pepper's rock pile. We made it, and we pummeled them with rocks, and they in turn remained entrenched on the edge of the woods, throwing rocks back. I looked over, and I saw Denny Cantwell get hit smack on the head with one, and he had one of those pulsating balloon-like bumps like you see in cartoons. The hobos, they were approaching closer and closer, and more of us were getting hit, but we bravely held our ground. And then, luckily, a rock hit the bottom of the Pepper's back screen door. Bam! And suddenly in the doorway appeared Mrs. Pepper. What are you kids doing? Mom, says Donnie, those hobos are attacking us. Donnie stuttered when he got all excited. You leave these kids alone or I'm calling the police. I mean it. Mrs. Pepper could look and sound pretty mean when she wanted to. Well, the hobos, they cursed Mrs. Pepper, and they cursed us, threatening to return and kill us one day as we courageously flipped them the bird. But then they slowly drifted back into the depth of the woods, and they were never seen again. That was the greatest day of our childhoods. A day we reminisced about for years and years and years afterwards. Man, remember the Great Hobo War? It was our most memorable moment of glory, an unforgettable collective outpouring of courage and stupidity. I was just 9 years old, and you know, I've never been as courageous since.